Toy Pony.
New sonic screwdriver. Now it's just my cell phone.
This is JTH.
Tailsthehero.
And Super Bombs is right here behind us.
Yeah.
Say hello.
He's just hanging out being...
Yeah. Sorry you can't see him, but he doesn't mind. And now we are reading another fanfic tonight after over a month of having you guys wait. We are sorry for that. But we are reading a Twilight and Celestia clopfic called Twilestia.
Yep.
And from what I saw, this had some naughty divulgences, so this might be kind of kinky. So if you don't like kinkiness, turn away quickly.
This is not manly.
But here we go, Twilestia. Twilight Sparkle chased a rogue pea across her plate with her fork, listening to Princess Luna, babbling on about the night skies, constellations, and royal duties. She was trying to appear interested, but her head was buzzing from one of Pinkie Pie's late-night parties. The lack of sleep was showing. "Are you okay, Twilight Sparkle?" Luna asked, concerned. Since the wedding, her English had improved majorly, and she was calm and collected.
Okay, I'm listening. I should grab my notebook.
Okay. "Just a little tired," Twilight admitted with a wry smile. "You should sleep earlier. Students need many hours a night to keep their minds fresh," Luna said with a gentle nod, pushing her mane out of her eyes. Twilight nodded in acquiescence. I don't know how to pronounce it because I'm a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
At that, yawning faintly and then spearing the pea with her fork, pulling it up to her mouth, chewing on it idly. After the wedding, Luna had taken a more active role towards social activities, from lunch dates to parties to managing the Canterlot Palace Library. In her spare time, the princess was spending more and more time interacting with others. Little did Twilight know, however, that Luna's spare time job had caused her to uncover the young unicorn's journal.
Oh boy.
It had proved an interesting read to the princess, containing theories on the time-space continuum, relativity, and many other subjects. Littered throughout the journal, however, was various references to the unicorn's relationship with Celestia.
Oh boy.
A relationship that either unicorn obviously wished to be far deeper than just teacher and student.
Is that your hand?
No.
Okay, I thought I was putting my arm on your hand. It was like, ah!
No. Far deeper than just teacher and student. The final entry in the journal was a series of angry strokes denoting that the unicorn was being sent all the way to Ponyville and for an undisclosed length of time, further away from the princess. So that was when she first came to Ponyville.
Yeah.
Luna had found the journal tucked neatly in a book on Star Swirl the Bearded when she was reorganizing those books that Twilight had left behind and forgotten about. The Dark Princess had already sounded out Celestia over cups of tea, discovering that her sister was aloof with reason. She was a goddess, after all. A young unicorn would hardly take that kind of attention in stride. Celestia feared that any overt advances or even mentions of such would create a rift between herself and Twilight. And even that information was only gleaned after Celestia was tipsy.
Oh, God. I'm drunk. I'm gonna tell you my secret feelings for Twilight.
The
fuck?
Have you visited Canterlot recently? Luna asked, carefully perking an ear at the unicorn. Twilight looked up from her plate, canting slightly side to side. She shook her head gently. "I haven't been to Canterlot since the wedding." Luna lowered her gaze to the table and gave a gentle nod. "Ah, and why would that? And that would be why then?" "I guess you would mean in that, and why is that?"
Yeah.
Twilight's ears perked up at that, and she lifted her head, brows raising. "Why what?" Giving a deliberate pause to feign recalcitrance, whatever, Luna bit her bottom lip, affecting a look of nervousness. Affecting a look of nervousness. "Oh, it's just that Celestia becomes aloof when she does not interact with you for long periods of time."
Oh, God.
"However do you mean?" Twilight asked curiously, head canting side to side. "I probably shouldn't say any more," Luna said with a false strain in her voice, shaking her head. "You've got me curious now," Twilight pressed, placing her forehoofs on the table. Luna looked away, feigning nervously. "Well, Celestia likes you," Luna murmured, deliberately keeping her voice low to make her manipulations believable. Twilight swallowed hard, her cheeks flushing. "Likes me?" Luna nodded gently. "I believe so, but it's not like she can do anything about it, right? I mean, you're a unicorn. She's a goddess. Plus, you're pretty young and you don't have any interest in her, right? The unicorn flushed deeply as Luna stared at her pointedly. Well, I guess not. Don't tell her I said anything, Luna said suddenly, splaying her ears back. She'd never even admit it. You'd have to walk right up to her and kiss her to even get a reaction.
Oh boy.
I won't tell her, Twilight said, shaking her head before pushing away from the table. I have a letter to send. Luna nodded gently. Perhaps we can have lunch again next week? I'd like that, Twilight said with a distracted smile, beginning to quickly stride away towards her library. Princess Luna smiled as she watched the unicorn speeding away. Events seemed to be set in motion. It seemed. And I guess we are skipping ahead for either an hour or two or maybe a few days.
Okay?
Yeah, like I said in our last video, throat's a bit scratchy.
Yeah.
Twilight tentatively lifted a hoof, knocking on Celestia's door. The unicorn's cheeks were flushed with warmth, and she shifted nervously from hoof to hoof as she listened intently. Hoofbeats made their way over to the door. There was a pause, and then the door opened. Celestia raised a brow down at her student, her ears perking upwards curiously at her. Twilight? I must admit, this is a surprise. Twilight gave a nervous nod, looking up at the princess, her eyes wide and her heart thudding. Now that she was actually there, she had no clue what she intended to do, but from what Luna had said, Celestia had feelings for her, and Twilight definitely had feelings for the princess. But what? Was she just going to blurt out that she had feelings for the princess? The princess tilted her head slightly to one side, a brow arching further upwards. Twilight? Twilight shook her head to clear it and peered up at Celestia, shifting her away from hoof to hoof nervously. Can I come in? Celestia gave a thoughtful hum at that, eyeing her student suspiciously before giving a gentle nod. Come in, Twilight, she said, taking a step back, giving the unicorn space to enter.
Yep.
And now I shall scroll down a bit more. There we go. The young unicorn stepped through the open doorway, nervously standing beside the door as Celestia closed it. It was not the first time Twilight had been in the princess' personal chambers, but this time felt somehow different. Somehow knowing that Celestia was interested in her didn't make it any easier to broach the subject. Come, sit, Celestia said, smiling warmly as she settled herself down on the rug in the center of the room where she usually laid to read or compose letters. Twilight nervously made her way over to the rug, standing there awkwardly as Celestia gracefully turned to the center of the rug and dropped down onto her stomach, twitching her wings and arranging them into a more comfortable position. The unicorn stepped over next to Celestia and sat down carefully on the edge of the rug, making sure not to touch the princess. So why did you come? Celestia inquired, ears perking up as she peered sideways at her student. Twilight stammered, her ears splaying backwards. Well, I wanted help with a book. Celestia arched a brow at her student, her expression suspicious. A book, you say? I see no book. Twilight flushed at that, realizing she had been caught in a lie.
You got caught, bitch.
Blew it.
Just fucking kiss her.
Luna told me that you like me,
Oh.
Twilight blurted suddenly. Blew it.
Fuck.
Her ears splaying back in embarrassment. Celestia went silent at that, looking away. I'm sorry, she whispered quietly.
Oh dear God.
Twilight shook her head hurriedly. No. She tried to soothe, shuffling closer to the princess nervously. I don't mind, really.
Wait. You're spazzing out. Calm the fuck down.
Celestia raised her brow at that again, peering at her student. What do you mean? I mean, Twilight trailed off, unable to articulate how she felt. She lifted a hoop to rest on Celestia's shoulder. The unicorn's cheeks flushed further. I like you too, Princess Celestia.
Okay. The princess is probably like, what?
There was another pause then, as Celestia processed the words, looking down at her forehead with a few moments, then she looked back at her student. Do you know what you're talking about, Twilight? Twilight looked away, avoiding the princess's gaze, nodding firmly. I know. This is... Celestia was at a loss for words, and Twilight was surprised at that. Celestia always knew what to say. That's true. She always seemed to know what to say in the show, but this time she doesn't. Princess? Twilight asked uncertainly. I need time to think, Celestia said, trailing up with a slow shake of her head. Twilight shook her head again, taking a deep breath, lifting her hoof to touch Celestia's cheek. No thinking. Twilight breathed, her cheeks burning. Celestia lifted her head to stare at her student, brows raising. But Twilight cut the princess off by leaning in and kissing her full on the mouth with no hesitation. So you just went right for it. You really want to hurry things along, don't you?
Me? No, I'm good.
I was talking to
sorry.
Twilight. I wasn't talking to you.
I misinterpreted.
The princess paused, caught off guard, tensing for a moment, and then relaxing, humming faintly into the kiss her student was pressing on her. So she's actually enjoying it?
You're sick. A teacher and student relationship, that is wrong.
What do you think of this, Super Bombs?
What?
A teacher and student relationship.
What's your take on that?
Fuck it. Okay.
Because you've been so quiet. You usually say random stuff.
He's playing a game.
Yeah,
True. True. After several long moments, Twilight drew back, panting faintly for breath, a soft shudder passing through her form. Celestia stared down at her, her expression unreadable. The soft whisper of the alicorn's feathers rustling together as her wings twitched was loud in the silence. Right?
I think so.
Well, her wings are twitching. Hello. Oh.
But are they erect?
I don't know. It didn't say that. Just the sound of her feathers rustling together as her wings twitched. Twilight flushed, her ears pinning back, her head hanging. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. Celestia shook her head, lifting a hoof to shush her student, then leaning in for another kiss, pressing their lips together gently. The princess's wings fluttered slightly in excitement. Her tail swished once. For her part, Twilight was more composed, but her cheeks were flushed more as her own tail was twitching errantly. Once more, the kiss was broken, and the two mares panted softly, trying to catch their breath. Where do we go from here? Twilight asked, her ears splaying. Her ears splayed. I haven't studied this stuff.
Oh, God.
This is not something you can study, Twilight, Celestia gently chided, shaking her head and laying a hoof over the unicorn. Twilight's cheeks flushed again, and she looked away. I disagree.
You can't disagree on studying love. There's no such thing as studying... Ow! Love, your computer's hot.
I know. You disagree? Celestia asked curiously. I've seen, well, one or two books, Twilight admitted, refusing to meet Celestia's gaze again. Don't tell me. Books detailing what to do in an awkward situation like this? Celestia inquired, head tilting inquisitively to the side.
And then they fucked.
Twilight flushed faintly and shook her head. Well, I guess not about this specifically. Then which books do you refer to? Celestia pressed, nudging her student gently with her nose.
Romance novels.
The young unicorn looked away, stammering faintly. They were, romance novels.
Sorry, I just read that. I was like, oh my...
Celestia blinked once at that before giving a soft chuckle.
That doesn't count.
Before giving a soft chuckle. Ah, my dearest student, have you been reading Moons and Bits novels?
That doesn't count.
Twilight shuddered faintly and shook her head silently. It was an old story based on a creation myth. The princess gave a hum, looking down at her student thoughtfully. Explicate?
Explicit?
No.
I don't know.
Whatever.
A word.
Yes. Twilight flushed a little bit more, hiding her nose behind a hoof. Aw. Well, it was about you.
Oh, God.
Celestia blinked once, her head canting to the side. You and Luna, Twilight further elaborated. Celestia's cheeks flushed faintly at that, and her ears perked up. A story about me and my sister? Twilight nodded, flushing faintly. Tell me more, my dearest student, Celestia urged, nudging her again. I don't know if she's read that story herself or not.
Probably not. Or maybe she has, I don't know.
Or maybe she has and she's just trying to tempt Twilight into telling her what she thought the best part was. Well, I kinda just skipped to the good bit, Twilight admitted, face flushed a crimson color. And what was that? Celestia asked in a knowing tone.
Oh god.
Who knows, maybe she has read the story.
The naughty stuff, Twilight whispered.
Turning her head away, blushing hard. And why did you skip to there? Celestia asked with a smile in her voice.
Because she was horny.
You already know why, Twilight stammered, shaking her head helplessly. But I want to hear you say it, Celestia said with a warm smile. Twilight shuddered faintly, her hooves tensing on the rug as she tried to still her reflexive reactions. Because I'm attracted to you. Celestia gave a warm smile at that, her wings flicking slightly as she leaned in to nuzzle her student.
Did you masturbate? Oh!
Oh my god. Well, that was random.
What?
Twilight's eyes widened at the bluntness of the question, and her stammered answer was obviously a lie.
What the fuck?
No.
Ow!
You okay?
Yeah.
You wouldn't lie to your princess, Celestia, Estelle, smiling. You wouldn't lie to your princess, Celestia asked delicately, a smile tugging at her lips. The unicorn looked up at Celestia, her eyes wide, her heart pounding. Maybe I did, she stammered, flushing hard and looking away. A low, thoughtful hum left the alicorn as she shifted, tugging Twilight against her and then rolling onto her rump with her back resting against the wall, wings spread for balance. Twilight's back was pressed to her chest and stomach, the young unicorn sitting between the princess's splayed hind legs while Celestia's forehoofs wrapped around Twilight's middle.
Mm. It's Celestia!
Twilight squeaked faintly at being moved, but allowed it, shuddering faintly and then leaning back against the princess, looking at her upside down. Celestia gave a pleased hum, leaning in to kiss the unicorn's nose, smiling. Did you use your hooves? Celestia asked brazenly on her own hooves, pressing down in Twilight's form slowly.
What the fuck?
Rubbing against her stomach. Magic, perhaps?
Why are you asking this?
Twilight flushed deeply at the question, unsure of how to respond. Biting her bottom lip as Celestia took one of the unicorn's ears into her mouth and gently nibbled at the edge of it.
A toy.
Oh my god!
A toy, Celestia asked after a moment. Twilight squeaked once.
And shook her head vigorously. Celestia smiled at that, giving a low, eager hum, leaning in to swirl her tongue gently around Twilight's horn.
A toy? She replied.
She repeated, feeling her student shudder against her again. You don't have to read every single thing, you know.
I know, I'm just trying to...
play along?
Yeah, have a little fun.
Repeated, feeling her student shudder against her without giving her all the affirmation she needed.
Please let me do this one.
Fine.
Such a naughty unicorn.
Nice one, Brohoof. That was a nice one, but still, she's... Oh, man. Celestia's really getting kinky here. Like I said, naughty divulgences, kinkiness. If you don't like this shit...
Click off.
If you don't like this shit, please turn back to the previous page you were on. Otherwise, we will kick your ass if you decide to stick around and complain and bitch in the comments below. What's that?
I'm getting a call from someone. I don't know who.
Or is it?
It's unknown.
Oh.
Just keep reading, I'll just disconnect.
Alright. Alright, the last thing Celestia said, such a naughty unicorn. Okay. The young unicorn squirmed helplessly in the clutches of the princesses, worming back against her gently in reflexive motions as she felt her tongue on her horn. Tell me about the toy, Celestia purred into Twilight's ear, biting down on it hard enough to elicit a cry from her student, but not hard enough to harm her.
Go ahead. Oh, you're sorry.
What do you want to know? Twilight panted, peering up at the princess with lidded eyes, the blush visible in her cheeks. Celestia gave a low, thoughtful sound at that, gently nibbling along the tip of Twilight's ear, her hoof still rubbing dangerously low at Twilight's stomach.
Someone trying to sell me something?
Everything, Celestia decided, her wings flaring and feathers twitching eagerly. Bing boner! Size, shape, color.
What the fuck?
Oh, I'm getting a little excited here. What?
Nothing.
Twilight shuddered again, her face and ears burning as she closed her eyes and tried not to pay attention to the sensations that Celestia was bringing up with her nibbles to her ears and those teasing licks to her strangely sensitive horn.
Sensitive horn. Well, it's kind of. Oh God.
Kind of big, Celestia started, faltering over the words with her nervousness and the sensation of Celestia both nibbling at her ears and working the hoof over her lower stomach. And I will. Okay. Why big? Celestia asked suddenly, giving a devious grin down at her student. Oh my god. Twilight flushed again, staring down at her hind legs, which were twitching reflexively every time Celestia's hoof strayed a little too close to the meaty area between them. Because I found that the smaller kinds of toys don't give enough stimulation. They're all too smooth and there's no contours.
What the fuck?
Ooh, Celestia gave an eager growl at that, biting her student's ear again, making the unicorn squeak and writhe. Tell me more, the princess purred.
This is turning into friggin'. I don't even know. Like.
Well, mine is modeled after a hydra, Twilight admitted, flushing deeply once more, her ears splaying backwards. The removal of her targets caused Celestia to lean forward and begin swirling her tongue along the unicorn's horn again. Why a hydra? Celestia purred into one of Twilight's ears, tongue circling around the length of her smooth horn. The shape of the hydra is most stimulating, Twilight admitted, flushing deeply again. The medial ridges offer more stimulation, and the bulbous glandus, whatever,
Bulbous glandus
offers more unique stimulation when it's inserted.
Are you stuttering, or is it?
No, it's Twilight's.
Oh, okay.
Twilight's the one who's stuttering.
Okay, I'm just making sure if you were stuttering or not.
No, I'm stuttering because Twilight's stuttering.
Okay, now I won't ask anymore.
Twilight fumbled over the last few words, her face burning crimson as she explained to her teacher, the princess, exactly what kind of special attributes her toy had.
Oh, God.
The knot, Twilight, Celestia purred huskily into her student's ear. Tell me that you like the knot. She must mean... Oh, whatever. Twilight's eyes widened as she bit her bottom lip again, eyes clenched close, squirming against her teacher. I like the knot, Twilight stammered, fumbling with the slang word, feeling dirty just saying it. Why do you like it so much? Celestia asked with a grin, biting the tip of her student's splayed ears again. Excuse me. The knot, Twilight corrected herself, stammering, lets me keep it inside while I'm reading, and it, Twilight trailed off, gathering up the courage to finish the sentence. I like how it feels when I...
I think Celestia has reached the open area.
Twilight broke off into a panting gasp as Celestia's hoof finally reached its destination, pressing between her hind legs. Oh, I don't know if I can read this last line.
Between her hind legs and rubbing directly up against the... Ooh. Neglected
eager lips of her already drooling cunt.
You gotta use that kind of word for whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Did you use it when you read the story about me, Twilight? Celestia asked, naughtily grinning and taking the tip of her student's horn into her soft mouth, sucking around it gently.
Go ahead. Just keep
Who
reading.
keeps texting you?
It's Gray Racer.
Gray Racer. A helpless shudder left the unicorn as she felt the stimulation both in her aching sex and the tip of her sensitive horn. Her entire form arching slightly against the princess, her hind legs spreading further on reflex. Not the first time, Twilight panted, shaking her head. Oh, really? You read it more than once? The first time, Celestia asked with a sly grin, drawing off Twilight's horn with a slow swirl of her tongue along the length of it. You've read the story many times. Twilight gave a shaky nod and then shuddered as Celestia gave an extra hard grind between her spread hind legs.
Nice.
I cannot adequately simulate a tongue, though. You didn't try your own, Celestia suggested with a naughty grin, grinding her hoof between Twilight's thighs eagerly. The edges of it already were wet with the unicorn's liquids. Jesus.
Yeah, he usually texts quick.
Couldn't reach, Twilight admitted, her face burning. Alright. Celestia grinned at her, eyes narrowing down at her student. She unwrapped her hoops from Twilight's body and leaned back slightly, looking at her messy hoops slowly. Turn around, Twilight, and lay down on your back.
Oh boy.
Twilight squeaked faintly at the request, her ears pinning back, her breathing increasing in speed and intensity. Shuddering, she did as asked, leaning forwards and dropping onto her stomach before rolling over, carefully spreading her hind legs.
Yay, lesbians. What? I like lesbians.
Did you have to say that on camera?
Why not?
The princess stared at Twilight for a long moment, watching with unguarded interest as the unicorn exposed herself to the alicorn. With her legs spread like that, Celestia could see everything, where Twilight's fuzzy purple fur fanned out around the soft, pliable-looking edges of her already moist sex, and the faint sheen of moisture visible on the pink that was faintly noticeable between. Twilight arched and cried out supplies and delight as Celestia fell on her, her muzzle burying between her student's spread thighs. Lips contacting her puffy, aroused sex, hoofs flying to her muzzle. Twilight tried to contain her squeaks, even as Celestia began to lap at her powerfully, drawing a series of long, firm licks across the pliable lips of her student's cunt, spreading her open slightly with pressure and allowing the velvet tongue to swirl directly against the exposed pink flesh.
You okay? Calm down, it's only a fanfiction.
Still, stifling her cries, Twilight rolled her hips in reflex, meeting the eager lapping of the princess's warm tongue with the motions, trying to eke out another little bit of stimulation from the firm, rapid licks. The unicorn's eyes closed, and she curled helplessly, her hooves wrapping around her teacher's head and her hips towards the delightful sensation between her legs. Something poked her nose, and Twilight opened one eye to find Celestia's horn in front of her. With a low moan, Twilight sank her mouth over the horn, closing her lips over it and sucking at it powerfully, giving muffled sounds of delight as the alicorn worked between her legs so eagerly. Celestia already had a hoof pressed between her own thighs, firmly ripping against her drooling cum, while she assaulted Twilight's own sex with her eager laps and tongue swirls. Her free hoof was curled around Twilight's rump, helping to hold the unicorn close and spread, allowing her to dig her tongue just that much further into the heated, wet folds of her student's eager cunt. Jeez, do you have to use that word? Does this guy have to use that word?
Yeah, I really don't like that word either.
Me either. Would have been better if he just said you know what.
Yeah.
Twilight whimpered softly around
Pussy! That was not bombs, that was me.
It would have been hilarious if it was. Twilight whimpered softly around the pointed spire in her muzzle, her ears pinned back and her chest heaving as she panted and shuddered, rolling her hips in reflex. Princess, I'm going to climax.
Oh, what the fuck?
Come, Twilight, Celestia panted as she drew back from the unicorn's quivering sex. Say it, Twilight, she demanded, grinning breathlessly as she leaned back down to attack Twilight's clit with rapid, eager licks of her tongue. Twilight flushed helplessly, her ears splaying back in her hips and hind legs twitching as she felt the rising from within her. You think you can read this?
I'm going to come!
Nice one. Again, bro hoof. That was actually a pretty good try in my opinion. Twilight never finished her sentence as Celestia leaned in close, her lips closing over her student's clit, sucking powerfully and then tugging back, sending a jolt of pleasure through the unicorn's form. Twilight writhed and shuddered, squeezing Celestia's head as she bucked her hips reflexively, repeated slick gushes of her orgasmic liquids drilling from her quivering cunt as she cried out in delight.
Ugh.
After several long moments, Twilight relaxed, releasing Celestia's head with a low groan before splaying out on her back, spent. Celestia gave a low, delighted hum, lapping firmly at her student's puppy cunt, cleaning up the orgasmic liquids. The scent of Twilight's lust was strong in her nose. And some of her clear liquids... Oh, you just made the...
That was my fault, sorry.
Some of her clear liquids even splashed across the princess's muzzle, dripping slowly from her cheeks and chin. It took very little effort for Celestia to reach climax, grinding her hoof against herself eagerly as she tongued at
Very little effort. Wow.
as she tongued at her tired student's eager body.
Oh, God.
Luna carefully pushed open the door to Celestia's private chambers, peeking in. Celestia had been late to raise the sun that morning, and it had fallen to Luna to take up her sister's duties on the interim. It had been over 1,000 years since the last time Celestia had failed to raise the sun on time.
Over 1,000 years.
And then it had been a grave incident that was the cause. A slight expression of surprise found Luna's face when she caught sight of Celestia still fast asleep. She was resting on her side on the rug, in the center of the room, spooning with Twilight.
Nice.
Twilight likewise was fast asleep. Celestia's wing resting over Twilight, and one hoof was possessively laying over the smaller form of the unicorn. Their heads rested side by side on the rug. Luna even fancied that they were both smiling. Very carefully, Luna pulled back and closed the door, making as little noise as possible, not wanting to disturb the two. She nodded to the two guards. "Allow my sister to sleep. I will tend to her royal duties for the day. She deserves this much," Luna said to the two guards as she headed for the throne room. She was surprised that it had only taken so little time for Twilight and Celestia to end up together after dropping the hint at that lunch date, but she was happy that the two had found each other. And the image of the two mares sleeping side by side, entangled like that, was a pleasant image indeed. The end. Oh, well, that was
good.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. And not that I don't think My Little Pony is manly enough for bronies like us.
No.
But can we go do something a bit more manly?
You want to go out for ice cream?
I do!
Yeah.
Yes, I do! I want to go get ice cream!
Because I love ice cream so much.
Me too! Excuse us, we're gonna go get ice cream! Bye!
My fucking God.
Hold on, we're gonna go get ice cream! Bye!